what we have seen in last 5 years, we have not seen in last 50 years.
The game is in scale. So if you have volumes which you can produce, then it makes sense to produce.
We are building for India, we are building for the world.
I have a very august panel here, and before I come to this panel, just on a lighter note, the previous panel you had a set of domestic champions sitting here. In this panel, you will notice that this sector of industrial electronics, all the major global companies are present in India. And this panel is also a representation of that. All of them are MNC firms having long presence in India. And that's one other characteristics of this whole industrial electronics sector. There are companies with long-standing presence in India. We have access to products, to technology and other things. So how do we get this sector to make in India more? I think that's the question we are all trying to understand. I'll start with Dilip ji. First of all, could you introduce yourself, talk more about your firm, what you do in India before we come to the industrial electronics sector and what can be done there?
Sure. So thank you so much, Devendra, and thanks also for the very nice summary that you provided to us, and it really demonstrated the vastness of what is categorized as industrial electronics. Rockwell Automation, we've been present in India formally, like as in having a legal entity and presence on the ground for 42 years now, so 83 onwards, but we were engaged even prior to that in terms of our activities in supporting the Indian customers. It's a mature industry because manufacturing plants and factories have been using some form of automation for a long period of time. That was the industry 3.0, which isn't much spoken about. Specifically about our own presence, we are 120 years globally, 40 years, like I said, here in India. What we do is a vast array of things that were mentioned over there. Specifically, our presence here, we have about 4,500 people here. We've got presence in around 17 locations across India, and major clusters, NCR, west part of the country in Pune, south in Bangalore, and also in Chennai. We are currently building 2 factories in Chennai. The first one will have start of production happening anytime in the next 100 days or so. So lots of activities going on. We've been doing a lot of our global design activities for a long period of time, now close to about 12 plus years through our Bangalore Design Center. And one thing which I thought I'll mention before I wrap up is for specific industries, in particular automotive, tire, and discrete industries, and then for life sciences, pharmaceuticals, 2 very large sectors here. And then also for consumer industries, we've got 3 centers of excellence, which are global centers of excellence, that are hosted from India for the world. So some of you who are familiar with manufacturing execution systems, we have about 500 people across India who exclusively work on that.
Thank you, Dilip ji. I'll come back to you more with specific questions on what can be done in the sector. Sreekumar ji, if I can come to you next. You represent one of the oldest MNCs in India, if I can say that, having more than 100 years of presence in India, Siemens?
More than 175.
Wow, more than 175 years in India and having wide presence of manufacturing. I would have visited some 4 or 5 units of yours in India, not more. So could you start with your presence in this whole sector of industrial automation and electronics? How are you present here in India? What's your spread?
Yeah, like many other global corporations, Siemens is also present in multiple areas, but we have a substantial presence in terms of making in India. We have around 20 odd factories all over India, including a couple of electronic manufacturing facilities. The largest one being in Goa, where we produce electronic automation, protection and automation products for the grid. We also have, like Mr. Sawhney said, large global competence centers which work for the entire world. The factory also, what we have is producing for the world. The products are produced in India for the world, and many times I would, in order to create an impact, I would normally tell people, do you know, we supply electronics from India to China. Yeah. So we were a supplier of products from electronic products from India to China, and that is something which I always found cuts across people in India, that we could actually do it, and that is where we are. We are present in mainly in industrial automation and also infrastructure automation. We also are in mobility, in large rail systems and all, besides Siemens' presence in energy and healthcare as an entity. Yeah, that's what Siemens is.
Thank you so much. That's a nice setting up of where does Siemens come from when related to this topic. Ritesh ji, if I can come to you, you represent Bosch, one of the long-standing companies in India. And could you speak about your presence in India, specifically in the auto electronics sector, please?
So, first of all, very good afternoon and very good evening to all of you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me here in this electronics ambience. So, we are 102 years old. We just celebrated 100 years in 2022. 1922, we opened the first opening the sales office in Calcutta. Many of us remember more as a Micro than Bosch those days. In 2008, we moved to Bosch Limited. So overall, we are 38,000 crore company. And when you come to mobility solution, we are 17,000 crore company. Multiple diversified business. Bosch in India has grown with Bosch global perspective. We work as a family. There's a lot of intercontinental collaboration in the ecosystem. But let's first talk about India, because the topic is India. We are 17 manufacturing plant, 7 innovation centers, with 17,000 crore turnover of Bosch mobility solutions. Rest contribution come from engineering services, which is the only one important unit in India we call as Bosch Global Services in Bangalore, where we do engineering of products like Tesla in India, which is launched in the rest of the world. So this engineering services is also a very important portfolio beside the product industry. What is also important to know is where I come from as a person. I'm in Bosch for last 20 years, although in automobile industry for last 26 years. I have worked in different industries. Today I'm heading the only Bosch electronics plant in Bangalore. We are 4,000 crore company. We opened 15 years back. We started with electronic control units, almost to every OEM automobile we supply. I would say the second segment we started moving into from the electronic engine management to the brake systems, ABS, and now we are preparing for EV. So overall it has been a great evolution, and today where I'm standing here, I am making samples for Charcon for Mahindra. So this is where we are coming from, and we are looking positive for this community, because I have a very diversified input, but very focused input for automobile electronics, yeah, where we were going to talk in detail going forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll just come to you on that. Manish ji, if you can speak about Delta and your experience in India, your presence in India, etc.
Thank you, Dev, and thanks for having me here. And good evening, everyone. My name is Manish Walia, representing Delta Electronics, and we're the youngest of the lot here. We are about 2 decades plus in India. Started our operations in India in 2003. We represent 4 major business categories, starting with power electronics, which is the backbone. Mobility is one business category for us. Automation, we're in industrial and building, and of course, we have the infrastructure, right from the telecom and the energy infrastructure area. So we are present all across India, close to about 20 odd offices, locations, very close to the industrial clusters. And we have 3 factories in India, pretty large factory in down south, Krishnagiri, including one of the very large R&D setup in Bangalore, where we're going to house more than 2,000 engineers, plus Krishnagiri is going to be it's a global factory, and it's the one which is going to be for the world. So we are going to be exporting to many countries outside India, which we already are doing at this point in time. And I'm glad to be here and then participating in this.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Manish ji, if you can talk about Fanuc in India and introduce your firm to the audience, and then we'll come to the industry.
Yeah, thank you, Devendraji, and thank you for having me here. I am astonished to see this nice comprehensive summary for the industrial electronics and the too many diversified segments which it is covering. And coming to Fanuc, Fanuc came to India in 1992 when it was not considered fashionable to come to India. So this was the period when manufacturing was emerging, and Fanuc has a big role to play in the manufacturing domain, and known mostly for its controls and robots. We are also into machines basically. So these machines are like the compact machining centers or the CNC wire cuts or the injection molding machines for making precise plastic parts. So these are basically the verticals which Fanuc is operating in, while the fundamental product remains the CNC. The applied products are the robots as well as the machines. We are headquartered at Bangalore. We are having around 5 technical centers or say experience centers throughout the country. And we are having around 22 offices across India. And also we are serving the Southeast Asian countries also from here. And I mean, the way manufacturing industry is growing, Fanuc is poised to provide great support to this entire value chain. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now coming to the sector as such, Dilipji, again, if I can start with you, what is your sense of how much of industrial electronics is actually made in the country and how much is imported? Do you have any sense in terms of where we are good at, where we may not be good at making in India?
Well, precise numbers is right up your alley, right? So I'm not going to comment to that. And the other thing is just the sheer diffuse nature of this industry. I don't think any one of us would have such a comprehensive view as you presented. So I'll answer in 2 parts. The first thing is, just over the last 1 decade, we've witnessed a very sharp uptick in terms of the willingness of players who've been participating in the Indian market opportunity for them to begin to localize here. So that is for sure happening. There are many reasons for that, right? Manufacturing is taking off in India for good. It's not easy, that growth journey, but it is happening for sure. We are all seeing that, right? And for us to begin to localize our value chains becomes very important for us as businesses. So that is clearly happening, right? There are, within the various categories that you had summarized, right, there are some which have been easier to localize, but then there's some other parts, right, which are very high value, very low volume, right? Those categories, I think, will take a longer time period for them to get localized over here. But, you know, we'll reach a tipping point where all of those things become much more easier. Later in our conversation, we can talk about what some of the headwinds are, what some of the reasons are, which present some challenges or hurdles which we as an industry need to overcome, right? But that would be, if I had to put a ballpark figure, my sense is that it might be a 70-30 scenario, 70 being imported and 30 being
made.
Made here in India. Yeah.
Okay. Nee, that's a good ballpark to have with, and also gives us the legroom for us to plan for it and make more inroads into that. Thank you so much for that. Sreekumar, what do you think in terms of where we are currently in terms, I know from not just from a Siemens perspective, but I'm sure you have an overall industry view, and what do you think is holding us back, and which are the areas we might be doing good and which are the areas where we may need to improve?
Thanks. See, my own experience and my guess is it's difficult to categorize as one segment. Like Mr. Sawhney also said, the game is in scale. So if you have volumes which you can produce, then it makes sense to produce. If there's no point producing electronics in pieces, you gain nothing. Yeah. Why? The scale gives you economy. You need a lot of investment to make a electronic manufacturing setup. Unless you have scale, you gain nothing. So rather than, let's say, casting the net so wide that we want to capture everything in industrial electronics, I would rather look at that in pockets where we can do extremely well, and that is where we will succeed. So that's how I see, and that is where we have succeeded in places where our own example is we chose some products where we do it right from the beginning. We design it locally, we manufacture it locally, but we sell it globally. So that particular product goes across the world, and that is what we are able to bring scale from. So if you can design and develop products which not only fulfills you customers' requirements in India, but also similar customers large part of the world, that can bring scale and that can bring, let's say, bring economies which can justify such an investment, then only it will stick. Otherwise, you can make something for a few months or a few years, it will die down. So that's the way I see it.
Fair enough, sir. Thank you so much. Ritesh ji, if I can come to you next, and in Bosch being the leader in one of the leaders in auto component sector, and auto industry is one of the big success stories of Make in India. I'm talking the overall sector, and within that, from an auto electronics sector point of view, how much do you think is actually made in the country, and how much of auto electronics are getting imported, and are we reached the necessary scale required to make more in India?
Yeah, so I try to bring it in perspective in two steps here. What we have seen in last 5 years, we have not seen in last 50 years. And any evolution happens only when crisis happens. So I remember the time of Corona, and those days I was managing all customers, where we have to run the market of India without semiconductor availability. And that's what it taught, that the competition can not only come from demand, competition can also come from supply. And today in the whole world, we don't use semiconductor more than 10% of the requirement for automobile industry, because rest all is dominated by mobile and the other sector. So last 5 years is phenomenal, yeah. Phenomenal requirement, phenomenal change of mindset of people, both from demand and supply. So coming to the point of automobile electronics as a word got a different identity post 2019. And when we started getting understanding that we cannot make vehicle because we don't have semiconductor parts available. And that's where the need of connection with Tata Electronics and all this foundation started. And Bosch is also one of the partners there. So coming back to the requirement is, I think Sreekumar, Dilip said right, I think it's not even 70-30, it's 80-20. From the industry point of view, we are only in mechanics. We are just penetrating in the PCBs. And in PCBs also, if you talk about what we buy from our suppliers, is only 20% value addition, rest all are imports. So we have to far way to go, but the challenge is not to attack in pockets, to attack in ecosystem. We cannot attack the industry with the pockets. And there the important thing which I would also like to challenge the community around, whether even in government and ministry is talking to ministry. It's very important to connect the ecosystem from demand to supply. A lot of things are being done in demand ecosystem, but a lot of way to go in supply ecosystem. So it's very important. So that's why I'm happy to be here to give my voice from the industry point of view. I am also participating in many global forums. In India, the biggest challenge is to build an ecosystem. And the faster we build, the world is yours. They are looking for China +1, but that's not only India as an option. There are many more countries fighting for it. So we need a speed. And for speed, you have to develop yourself and your team.
Sure. Thank you. Manish, if I can come to you, I would wish to understand from Delta's point of view, your presence in India, how much has it got to do with the quantum of demand in India, or is it the manufacturing ease and the cost of manufacturing and the design and the other aspects which is available in India, or one of the strengths of India?
From Delta perspective, though we are in many fields here in India, I mean, I'll stick to the industrial electronics. I would say the last 10 years have been exceptional for most of us in the industry. And then the last 5 years post-COVID have been a dream run for everyone. And it also showed us, the limitations and the bottlenecks on the supply chain, which we definitely need to look at. Though as an organization, people like us, we are investing a lot in India. Commitment of about $500 million in the factories, what we are doing, localizing a bit. But then I still echo what Dilip and others have conveyed, 70-30 or 80-20 right now. But then having said that, the ecosystem development is the key. It's just not about we having a factory here, but then we're looking at end to end. We're looking at right from the component stage to the finished good, including the entire, very, very efficient logistics as well. So all said and done, we're looking at all these aspects from the Delta perspective. Right from the R&D, we're building for India, we're building for the world, and we're collaborating with our different R&D setups across the globe, in the US, Europe, Taiwan. And of course, we're also working on the automotive side of it, on the mobility as well as what goes inside a passenger car. So all in all, I would say it's the next 10 years probably are going to be even better. We're looking forward to working more closely with the entire ecosystem, developing it with our partners from Taiwan, developing a lot of the Indian partners, and then I'm sure we are going to see the similar growth in the coming years. And it could be even a double-digit growth, which we have been seeing as an industry close to about high single-digit, but then it could definitely be a double-digit in the times to come.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Manish, if I can just come to you and understand Fanuc's presence in India in terms of where do you see the strengths of India in terms of manufacturing, and which are those areas where you think we are still lacking when it comes to manufacturing of your products in India, and how much do you
Okay, so when it comes to manufacturing in terms of Fanuc, so Fanuc is still continuing to follow the same narrow path. The entire manufacturing is going to happen in Japan, but there's a lot of things which are happening towards the value addition. So when it comes to CNC, the customization as per the requirements of the customers is already happening from the last few decades, and products which are specific to the Indian markets, these are being developed and are being provided to the manufacturing industry. This is one way. And coming to the automation field, which is itself is growing in a big way, the product will continue to come from Japan, but the system engineering or the turnkey solution, which is the requirement of the industry, which in itself is a big value addition, this also is being done in India. We have a big team for that, and with the support of that particular team, which we call a system engineering team, the automation is taking giant steps in the different industries. The sectors which we were initially thinking that it's difficult for them to proceed for automation, they are moving into that direction. That is one. And coming to the industrial electronics segment, if we look at it, we have a big exposure to this particular industry. So with the help of our machines, we are supporting in a big way for the smartphone manufacturing. And the only hitch is that, still, if you look at the smartphone manufacturing, still we are just covering in India around 15% of the value in the complete assembled mobile phone. The other high value items like the chips or the displays or the camera modules, they still continue to be imported. So this is the area which we need to really look into, and from our side, we are very much there to support the industry in this particular domain also.
Thank you so much. And okay, I have just one or two more questions, and then I'll open up to the audience. If I can start from that side and we all take this thing, can you all name, say, three major problem areas for the sector? Because when I talk to everybody around here, I get a sense that 20-30% is getting made in the country and the rest is imported. What is holding back Indian companies? Because when I see the companies in other sectors, when we look at, we don't seem to have many companies in India with that required technology, etc. But this is one sector where we have so many global corporations in India, we have so much of R&D work, design work which is happening in India. So how do we propel India's manufacturing in industrial electronics going further? What are those top 3 things which we don't have, which we need to work towards? If we can start with you, sir.
Okay, so I will try to make it quick. So first important thing is to create a demand. We have a demand, but how to crystallize the demand, yeah? So coming to India is going through evolution. We are moving from, okay, my perspective comes from automobile. We are moving now from IC to hybrid and hybrid to EV. So the consumer is confused, and how we sell to consumer is up to us. Yeah, even if I talk as a end consumer, I am not sure that should I buy a EV vehicle or should I buy an IC vehicle. And this has been also a lot of lessons learned from the American and European market, who wanted to change the emission norms in the next couple of years, but it didn't work out. So we have a lot of lessons learned. So first important thing is to crystallize the demand. The second thing I said, even if we crystallize the demand, we are working on infrastructure, not only on battery management system, but we have to work on infrastructure of creating an ease of business and ease of operations. We need a high power and very clean room kind of facility to run the electronics in India. Now, even for a company like Bosch, we struggle in terms of investment because highly capital intensive. It's not that like mechanics, we put the VMC and CMC and we run the industry. We have to put complete fab, a very high billion-dollar investment to get the conversion done. So this is topic number 1. Topic number 2, we have to work on connected machines. It cannot be done by labor independent. So that means the skill force has to move to the next level. So we have to collaborate with the university well in advance on embedded systems, mechatronics, AI. AI, not general AI, AI application based. So this is the second topic. And the third topic is working with government on ecosystem, not in pockets. Very important is also to work on corporate taxation example. So if I talk about Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, there is a tax holiday for 3 years. So we have to remove, it's very difficult for me to assess and comment about it. I fully salute what government is doing, but it's very important to make industry participate there and see to it that we create an ecosystem. Otherwise, those incentives like PLI or what we call also in a lot of state incentives, the effort of using that money is too high. And so very important how we connect the industry together, work together with industry and try to build ease of operations and not only ease of business. Both is important for us to do.
Sure. Thank you. Manish ji.
3 important points which I think which needs to be looked into from the different perspectives. One is I believe the technology transfer has to be adequate if this industry has to move forward. That is number 1. Number 2 is I believe the skill set which many other panelists have also addressed. So this is one important thing which needs to be really deep dived into and which needs to be really worked upon. And third is to build the domestic supply chain in India. If at all we have to cater to such a diversified industrial electronics field. So these are the 3 important points which I believe needs to be looked upon. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll just double click on the last point that Manish spoke about. I think first of all, it is important to understand the distinction between what the previous panel was talking about, which is consumer electronics, really catering to the mass markets. Volumes are totally different. It's a different business model altogether, right? And if you come into our world, it's a very different paradigm because industrial electronics, you saw the diversity, but one of the diversities that did not come up is the sheer number of industries that we serve, from automotive to very process-centric industries such as oil and gas, chemicals, very hazardous environments, right? And what it requires is, these are mission-critical applications, safety applications, right? And what it requires is very specific, standards and compliances that have to be dealt with. And what it also then begins to mean is that the diversity of parts that you have, the number of SKUs just our organization alone, and we cater to just a fraction of what you saw in Devendra's charts, right? We have what, 450,000 SKUs, right? That's a lot of parts, lot of diversity of parts, right? Because you're catering to different industries, you also have to comply with standards for different countries that you operate in, right? So it's a very complex supply chain. So the reason I said I'll pick only one comment, one aspect, which is supplier ecosystem. Supplier ecosystem is very critical, right? Unlike the consumer electronics, ours is, relatively speaking, a very high mix, relatively low volume game, right? And that means to be able to attract those suppliers to set up their base here so that we can begin to localize at a much more rapid pace, that requires a lot of commitment from the entire ecosystem, policymakers and government included. So I'll just restrict myself to that one comment because I think it is very, very critical.
So, just a point to what you said right now, sir, high mix and low volume. Is it possible for a country like India to prioritize certain products which India can make for the world? Is that feasible? I'm not looking at making the entire range, but each firm, they can choose their list of priorities for India and then look at making that in terms of volumes.
I think that is the way to go, because you can't be all things to all people. You cannot really stretch all of your resources so thin,
exactly,
right? So you have to gain momentum in some areas, and we are seeing that is the way industry is beginning to shape, right? But we don't have time to lose. I mean, if India really has to become, we are talking about Viksit Bharat, 30 trillion economy, you got to really go from being sub 4 trillion right now to, let's say, 5 and then 10 trillion. Manufacturing has to gallop, right? So that's where my comments were coming from. We need to do things which are transformative. Yeah.
Your, the same question which I'm asking everyone, the three things where we are lacking, where we need to work on to get this Make in India thing happen in India in industrial electronics.
I can tell you some problems. I don't have solutions to tell you. One is, like other gentlemen said, the biggest bottleneck is in supply chain. In industrial electronics, the problem is magnified because we are electronics manufacturing is what we do, but we are not the biggest consumers of suppliers, or biggest, let's say, we don't drive the demand for components. So component demand is driven by consumer electronics, whereas the same components are used for in most cases used for industrial electronics. Their fashion changes every 2 years, whereas in an industrial electronic environment, the product which we make has to last for 15 years, 20 years, at least 10 years, which means the difficulty of managing changes in the consumer electronic side is much larger for industrial electronics in terms of keeping stocks, in terms of keeping, let's say, living with end of life of electronic components and all that. So having a solution for managing supply chain is one thing which could help, or one problem which need to be solved. The second is to determine where you want to shoot. I mean, I could guess, let's say, if India, to make one guess, India is going to install 500 gigawatt of renewable energy in various forms, and renewable energy consumes a lot of electronics inside. So if we target one segment like that, or maybe if India wants to run millions of electric vehicles into the market, and we focus on electronics behind it, I mean, that could be another thing which could. The third thing I think is we have a lot of R&D done, but I still have my doubts how much of that R&D is driven by innovation. We have a lot of workbenches, which means our R&D teams are part of global R&D organizations. Most of the times, I mean, the innovative ideas not always come from here. And wherever we succeed are where we have the idea which we generated here and by which we are able to solve a problem in a scale many times much beyond India. So to be able to come with ideas and products which can solve global problems could also be another thing which could, let's say, shift the game. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Manish, what do you think are the top 3 things which is holding us back?
I'm looking at it a little differently, and then I go back to the slides what you just shared. Industrial electronics, when we are covering, there's so many vast variety of areas we're looking at, automotive electronics, medical as well. If you really want to grow in a certain segment, there has to be a very laser focused approach by all the stakeholders, including the private corporates, the government of India. And once we have a detailed analysis, that's where we actually start implementing certain good ideas to grow the particular segment. That's one. So I believe industrial electronics has to be differentiated in different compartments. That's the first. Second, of course, I mean, everyone is talking about the supply chain, the ecosystem development, which is definitely the key, wherein from the electronics perspective, we definitely are lagging, which needs a lot of fast run by all of us. Of course, we're not the only one which are aiming for China +1. There are a lot of other countries, the Southeast Asian countries are really working very hard, and they're probably even more nimble than us. So there calls for a lot of work which needs to be done by us. And finally, I would say the skill development and upskilling, and then talking about and then understanding what AI brings to us, the IoT brings to us, and then what is that, we talked about 450,000 SKUs, right? That's a true picture.
Yeah.
And how do we really have faster transformation in terms of being adaptable and very flexible in terms of manufacturing and bringing it to the customers is going to be the key for our success. Yeah.
Sure.
So thank you to the panelists, and I would like to invite Mr. Pankaj Mahindra to kindly present the mementos. For he, ladies and gentlemen, is not only been the curator of these 2 sessions and the session which flows, but then he himself and his association aspires to make India a global hub for electronics manufacturing and exports. So the best person to be thanking all the stalwarts of the industrial electronics sector. Thanking Mr. Manish Walia. The moderator of the session, Mr. A.M. Devendranath. A gratitude thanks to Mr. K.N. Sreekumar. To Mr. Dilip Sawhney. Thanking Mr. Manish Sharma. And thanks to Mr. Ritesh Kumar Sinha.